The Beautiful Game: A Journey of Dreams and Determination. Chapter 1. The smallest player on the field. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across the dusty neighborhood field where 12-year-old Marcus Rivera stood, barely reaching the shoulders of the other boys around him. His oversized jersey hung loosely on his thin frame, making him look even smaller than his already diminutive stature. The other kids, most of them 15 or 16, towered over him like giants, their voices deeper, their movements more confident, their kicks more powerful. "Come on, Marcus. You're on my team," called out Diego, one of the older boys who had taken pity on the scrawny kid who showed up every day despite being outmatched in every possible way. Marcus's face lit up with that characteristic smile that never seemed to fade, no matter how many times he was knocked down or how often the ball sailed over his head during throw-ins meant for taller players. As the game began, Marcus found himself chasing shadows. Every time he thought he had positioned himself well, the ball would zip past him to a teammate he couldn't reach. When he tried to tackle, the older boys would simply shield the ball with their bodies, using their size and strength to maintain possession. By halftime, Marcus had barely touched the ball, and he could see the frustration in his teammates' eyes. "Maybe you should sit this one out, little man," suggested Carlos, not unkindly, but with the practical tone of someone who wanted to win. "You can play with the younger kids when they come later." But Marcus shook his head, that smile never wavering. "I'm good, thanks. I'm learning a lot just by being here." The older boys exchanged glances. They couldn't understand why this kid kept coming back, day after day, only to be outplayed and overshadowed. What they didn't see was the fire burning in Marcus's chest, the way he memorized every move, every technique, every strategy he witnessed on that field. That evening, Marcus walked home with dirt on his knees and grass stains on his shirt, but his spirits remained high. His older brother, Luis, was waiting for him on the front porch of their modest two-story house in the working-class neighborhood of East Los Angeles. "Rough day?" Luis asked, noting his little brother's disheveled appearance. "The best kind," Marcus replied, plopping down beside his brother. "I almost intercepted a pass from Diego today." "Almost?" Luis chuckled. At 18, he had been a decent player himself before a knee injury ended his dreams of playing college soccer. Now he worked at a local auto shop while taking night classes, but he never lost his love for the beautiful game. "You know, Marcus, there's more to soccer than just showing up and hoping for the best," Luis said thoughtfully. "Want to see something cool?" He pulled out his phone and navigated to a video of Lionel Messi, the Argentine maestro who had become a legend despite his own small stature. "Look at this guy. He's not the biggest, not the strongest, but watch how he moves." Marcus leaned in, his eyes glued to the screen as Messi danced through defenders, his low center of gravity actually working to his advantage. The way he changed direction, the way he protected the ball, the way he found spaces that seemed impossible, it was like watching magic. "Can you show me more?" Marcus asked eagerly. And so began their nightly ritual. After dinner, while their parents watched telenovelas in the living room, Luis and Marcus would huddle around the phone or laptop, studying footage of the world's greatest players. They watched Messi's close control, Xavi's passing vision, Iniesta's ability to glide through tight spaces, and countless others who had overcome physical limitations through skill, intelligence, and relentless practice. Chapter 2. A father's wisdom. Roberto Rivera had been watching his youngest son's struggles and triumphs from the kitchen window that overlooked the small backyard. A man of few words but deep wisdom, Roberto had immigrated to the United States from El Salvador 25 years earlier, carrying nothing but dreams and an unshakable work ethic. He had built a life for his family through long hours at a construction company, and he understood better than anyone the value of persistence in the face of adversity. One Saturday morning, Marcus was surprised to find his father waiting for him in the backyard, a soccer ball at his feet and a gentle smile on his weathered face. "Mijo," Roberto said, using the affectionate Spanish term for my son, "I think it's time we had a proper talk about this game you love so much." Marcus's eyes widened. His father rarely spoke about soccer, though Marcus had heard stories from his mother about Roberto's playing days back in El Salvador, where he had been something of a local legend before life's responsibilities took precedence. "First thing you need to understand," Roberto began, juggling the ball effortlessly from foot to foot, "is that soccer is not about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about being the smartest and the most prepared." He let the ball drop and trapped it with his right foot. "You see these boys you play with? They rely on their size now, but what happens when they play against others their own size? What happens when everyone is big and strong?" Marcus nodded, beginning to understand. "But you," Roberto continued, "you have something they don't have. You have hunger. You have the willingness to learn. And most importantly, you have joy in the game. I see it in your face every time you come home, win or lose." Over the following weeks, Roberto began joining Marcus in the backyard every morning before work. Despite having to leave for the construction site by 6 a.m., he would wake up at 5 to spend an hour with his son, teaching him the fundamentals that would become the foundation of everything that followed. "Ball control is everything," Roberto would say, demonstrating how to receive a pass with different parts of the foot. "If you can't control the ball, nothing else matters." He taught Marcus how to use his small size as an advantage, how to stay low when dribbling, how to change direction quickly, how to slip through gaps that bigger players couldn't navigate. More importantly, he taught him about the mental side of the game. "Soccer is chess, not checkers," Roberto explained one morning as they practiced passing against the garage wall. "You must always be thinking 2, 3 moves ahead. Where will the ball be? Where will the defender be? Where is the space?" These morning sessions became sacred time for both father and son. Roberto would share stories of his youth, of pickup games in dusty Salvadoran streets where creativity mattered more than athleticism, where players learned to make magic with whatever they had. "In my village," Roberto told Marcus one day, "we played with balls made of rags and tape. The field was dirt and rocks. But we learned to play beautiful soccer because we had to use our minds, not just our bodies." Chapter 3. The Digital Academy. As Marcus's understanding of the game deepened through his father's guidance, his evening sessions with Luis became even more focused and analytical. Luis had discovered a treasure trove of training videos, tactical analyses, and skill tutorials online, and together they created what they jokingly called their Digital Academy. "Look at this," Luis said one evening, pulling up a video of Barcelona's youth academy La Masia. "This is where they train the best young players in the world. See how they focus on technique first, everything else second? They watched young players, many of them Marcus's age or younger, performing drills that emphasized quick passing, first touch, and spatial awareness. Marcus absorbed every detail, from the way the players positioned their bodies when receiving the ball to how they communicated with teammates. "Can we try some of these drills?" Marcus asked. The next day, Luis joined Marcus in the backyard, and they began implementing what they had learned. They set up cone courses for dribbling practice, worked on one-touch passing against the garage wall, and even created their own version of the rondo, the keep-away game that Barcelona used to develop quick thinking and precise passing. Luis proved to be a patient and insightful teacher. Having played at a higher level himself, he could break down complex concepts into digestible pieces for his younger brother. "See how Messi never takes a heavy touch when he's surrounded by defenders?" Luis pointed out during one of their video sessions. "Every touch has a purpose. It's either to control, to protect, or to advance. Never just to touch the ball." They studied different playing positions and styles. Marcus was naturally drawn to the playmaker role, the number 10 position that required vision, creativity, and the ability to find passes that others couldn't see. But Luis encouraged him to understand all positions. "A great player knows what every position requires," Luis explained. "If you understand what the center back is thinking, you can better exploit the space behind him. If you know what the winger wants to do, you can provide the pass he needs." Their mother, Maria, would often find them huddled around the computer late into the evening, pausing and rewinding footage, drawing diagrams on napkins, and discussing tactics with the seriousness of professional coaches. "You two are going to ruin your eyes staring at that screen," she would say, but there was pride in her voice. She could see how this shared passion was bringing her sons closer together and giving Marcus a sense of purpose she had never seen before. Combination of Roberto's practical wisdom and Luis's analytical approach created a perfect learning environment for Marcus. He was getting the fundamentals from his father's old-school knowledge and the modern tactical understanding from his brother's research and video analysis. Chapter 4: Small Steps, Big Dreams. After 3 months of intensive backyard training and video study, Marcus began to notice changes in his game during the neighborhood pickup matches. He was still the smallest player on the field, but he was no longer the weakest link on his team. His first touch had improved dramatically. Where before the ball would often be ounce off his foot in unpredictable directions, now he could receive passes cleanly and immediately look for his next option. His passing had become more accurate and purposeful, and most importantly, he was beginning to read the game better. "Nice pass, Marcus," Diego called out during one afternoon game after Marcus had threaded a perfect ball between two defenders to find a teammate in space. It was the first time any of the older boys had complimented his play, and Marcus felt a surge of pride that fueled him for the rest of the match. But the real breakthrough came on a particularly hot Tuesday afternoon. Marcus's team was down 3-2 with just minutes left in their informal match. The opposing team had possession and was trying to run down the clock, passing the ball around in their defensive half. Marcus watched the pattern of their passing, remembering his father's lessons about anticipation and his brother's analysis of pressing triggers. He saw that the opposing team's center back always looked to pass to his right back when pressured, a habit Marcus had noticed but never been quick enough to exploit. When the center back received the ball again, Marcus began his run early, anticipating the pass before it was even made. As the ball traveled to the right back, Marcus intercepted it at full sprint, suddenly finding himself with a clear path to goal. The older boys, caught off guard by this unexpected turn of events, scrambled to recover. But Marcus had been practicing his finishing in the backyard every day, and muscle memory took over. He took one touch to set himself and struck the ball cleanly with his right foot, sending it into the bottom corner of the makeshift goal. The field erupted in cheers from his teammates, but more importantly, Marcus saw something new in the eyes of the older boys: respect. For the first time, they were looking at him not as the small kid they tolerated, but as a player who could contribute to their success. That evening, Marcus could barely contain his excitement as he recounted the goal to his family over dinner. "And then I saw the pattern just like Papa taught me, and I knew exactly where the pass was going," he said, gesticulating wildly with his fork. Roberto smiled quietly, while Luis grinned and reached over to ruffle his little brother's hair. "One goal doesn't make you Pele," Luis teased, "but it's a good start." "I know," Marcus said, his smile never fading. "But it means I'm getting better, right? It means all the practice is working. It means," Roberto said carefully, "that you're learning to use your mind as well as your feet. That's the most important lesson of all." That night, Marcus lay in bed replaying the goal over and over in his mind, but more than the goal itself, he thought about the feeling of reading the game correctly, of anticipating what would happen before it happened. It was like solving a puzzle, and he was getting better at seeing the pieces. Chapter 5: Growing Pains and Growing Strength. As Marcus entered his 13th year, his dedication to soccer had become the defining characteristic of his daily routine. Every morning began with his father in the backyard, every afternoon was spent on the neighborhood field, and every evening was devoted to studying the game with Luis. His improvement was undeniable, but so were the physical challenges he continued to face. Despite his mother's efforts to help him gain weight, extra portions at dinner, protein shakes, and constant encouragement to eat more, Marcus remained significantly smaller than his peers. His pediatrician assured the family that he was healthy and would likely experience a growth spurt in the coming years, but for now, he had to make the most of what he had. "Mijo, I'm worried about you," Maria said one evening as she watched Marcus pick at his dinner, too excited about an upcoming pickup game to focus on eating. "You need to take care of your body if you want it to take care of you." Roberto nodded in agreement. "Your mother is right. Kill is important, but you need strength and energy too. Car can't run without fuel." This conversation led to a new addition to Marcus's routine. Roberto arranged for him to join a local gym that offered youth programs, where Marcus began working with a trainer who specialized in developing young athletes. The focus wasn't on building bulk. Marcus's body wasn't ready for that, but on developing functional strength, flexibility, and endurance. "We're going to make you strong like a wire cable," the trainer, Coach Peterson, explained. "Not big like a tree trunk, but tough and flexible and impossible to break." The training was grueling. Marcus spent hours working on core strength, balance exercises, and plyometric drills designed to improve his explosiveness and agility. Some days he would come home so tired he could barely keep his eyes open during dinner, but he never complained. Luis noticed the changes first. "You're getting quicker," he observed during one of their backyard sessions. "And your balance is incredible now. Try to knock you over and it's like trying to topple a spinning top." The improvements in Marcus's physical conditioning began to translate to his performance on the field. He was winning more 50-50 balls, holding his ground better in physical confrontations, and most importantly, he could maintain his high level of play for entire matches without getting tired. His reputation in the neighborhood was evolving too. Word had spread about the small kid who played with intelligence and determination, and older boys from other areas began showing up to test themselves against him. Marcus welcomed every challenge, seeing each new opponent as an opportunity to learn something new. One Saturday, a group of high school players arrived at the field, having heard about the pickup games from friends. They were bigger, faster, and more skilled than anyone Marcus had faced before, and initially he felt overwhelmed. "You sure you want to play with us, little man?" asked one of the high schoolers, not mockingly, but with genuine concern. "We play pretty hard." Marcus's response was that same bright smile that had become his trademark. "I'm sure. I learn more when it's harder." The game was indeed harder than anything Marcus had experienced. Pace was faster, the challenges more physical, and the skill level significantly higher. For the first 20 minutes, Marcus struggled to keep up, making mistakes he hadn't made in months. But then something clicked. All those hours of studying video, all those morning sessions with his father, all that physical training, it all came together. Marcus began to find his rhythm, using his low center of gravity to shield the ball, his improved vision to find spaces others couldn't see, and his enhanced endurance to maintain his intensity when others began to tire. By the end of the match, the high school players were asking for his name and inviting him to join their regular games. It was another milestone in Marcus's journey, another sign that his dedication was paying off in ways he had never imagined. Chapter 6: The coach's eye word of Marcus's abilities eventually reached Coach Martinez, who ran the local youth soccer club. The club wasn't prestigious, they couldn't afford fancy uniforms or professional facilities, but Coach Martinez had a reputation for developing players and helping them reach higher levels of competition. Coach Martinez first saw Marcus during one of the pickup games, drawn to the field by reports of a young player who was different from the others. He stood on the sideline for nearly an hour, watching not just Marcus but how he interacted with the game and his teammates. What impressed Coach Martinez wasn't Marcus's size or speed. He had neither, but his soccer intelligence and his attitude. The boy never stopped moving, never stopped thinking, never stopped communicating with his teammates. Even when things went wrong, that smile never left his face. After the game, Coach Martinez approached Marcus and his father, who had come to watch. "I run a youth club," he explained to Roberto. "We practice 3 times a week and play in a competitive league against teams from all over the region. I think your son has potential, but I want to be honest with you, it won't be easy. These teams have players who've been in organized soccer since they were 6 years old. They have resources we don't have." Roberto looked at Marcus, who was practically vibrating with excitement at the possibility. "What do you think, Mijo? Are you ready for a new challenge?" "Yes, Papa. More than ready." Coach Martinez smiled. Good. But I want you to understand something, Marcus. Natural talent will only take you so far. This level, everyone has some talent. What separates the good players from the great ones is how hard they're willing to work and how much they're willing to sacrifice. Marcus's first practice with the club was a humbling experience. The other players had been together for years, and their chemistry was evident in every drill and scrimmage. They moved like a unit, anticipating each other's actions and executing complex plays with ease. Marcus felt like he was learning a new language. Terminology was different, the expectations were higher, and the pace was relentless. Coach Martinez ran practices with military precision, focusing on tactical discipline and technical perfection. Rivera! Coach Martinez called out during a passing drill. Your touch is good, but your positioning is all wrong. You're thinking like a street player, not a team player. In organized soccer, you have to trust your teammates and play your role. It was constructive criticism, but it stung. Marcus had grown accustomed to being praised for his improvement, and now he was back to being the player who needed the most work. That evening, he sat with Luis, feeling discouraged for the first time in months. Maybe I'm not ready for this level, Marcus said quietly. Maybe I should stick to pickup games where I know I can contribute. Luis looked at his little brother seriously. Do you remember what Papa always says about construction work? That the foundation is the most important part, but also the hardest part because you can't see the progress day by day. Marcus nodded. This is your founda. I unfazed Marcus. You're not supposed to be perfect yet. You're supposed to be learning and growing and making mistakes. The question is, are you willing to put in the work to get better? The next morning, Marcus was in the backyard an hour earlier than usual, working on the positioning concepts Coach Martinez had tried to teach him. Roberto found him there, setting up cones and practicing his movement patterns. I want to understand how to play as part of a team, Marcus explained to his father. I've been playing like it's just me against everyone else, but that's not how real soccer works. Roberto smiled and picked up a ball. Then let's learn together, Mijo. Let's learn together. Chapter 7. The team player. Over the following months, Marcus threw himself into understanding team soccer with the same intensity he had once applied to individual skills. He studied not just what the great players did, but when and why they did it. He learned about spacing, timing, and the intricate relationships between different positions on the field. Coach Martinez proved to be exactly the teacher Marcus needed. Demanding but fair, he pushed every player to exceed their own expectations while never losing sight of the team's collective goals. Soccer is not a sport for individuals, Coach Martinez would say during team meetings. It's a sport for individuals who can think and act as one organism. The ball moves faster than any player can run, so we must move the ball, not chase it. Marcus absorbed these lessons eagerly. He learned to make runs that created space for teammates, even when he wouldn't receive the ball himself. He practiced passing combinations until they became second nature. Most importantly, he learned to see the field from his teammates' perspectives. His breakthrough moment came during a match against one of the region's top youth clubs. Marcus's team was overmatched in terms of individual talent, but Coach Martinez had prepared them to play as a cohesive unit. With his team trailing 1-0 in the second half, Marcus received the ball in midfield with two defenders closing in on him. 6 months earlier, he would have tried to dribble past both players or forced a difficult pass. Instead, he played a simple ball to his right back, then immediately made a run into space, dragging one of the defenders with him. The right back passed to the center midfielder, who had moved into the space Marcus had vacated. The center midfielder then played a perfectly weighted pass into the channel where Marcus was now running, having timed his movement to stay onside. Marcus collected the ball at full speed, cut inside past the last defender, and slotted the ball calmly past the goalkeeper. It wasn't the most spectacular goal he had ever scored, but it was the most satisfying because it represented everything he had learned about playing within a system. That, Coach Martinez said after the match, is what real soccer looks like. Not one player trying to be a hero, but 11 players thinking as one. The goal was a turning point not just for Marcus, but for his relationship with his teammates. They had initially been skeptical of the small newcomer who had joined their established group, but now they saw him as someone who made everyone around him better. "You see things before they happen," observed Carlos, the team's captain and central defender. "It's like you know where we're going to pass before we do." Marcus's reputation within the club grew steadily. Parents of other players began asking Coach Martinez about the small boy who played with such intelligence and maturity. College scouts, who regularly attended the club's matches to evaluate older players, started taking notes on the 13-year-old who seemed to orchestrate his team's attack. But perhaps the most meaningful recognition came from his father, who had been attending every match and practice, quietly observing his son's development. "You know what makes me most proud?" Roberto said one evening as they walked home from practice. "It's not the goals or the assists or the praise from the coach. It's that you've learned to make your teammates better. That's the mark of a true leader." Marcus felt a warmth in his chest that had nothing to do with the physical exertion of practice. All those early mornings, all those extra hours of training, all those moments of doubt and frustration, they were all worth it for this moment of recognition from the man whose opinion mattered most. Chapter 8: Facing Adversity. Just as Marcus was hitting his stride with the youth club, life threw him a curveball that threatened to derail everything he had worked for. Roberto was injured in a construction accident, breaking his leg in 2 places and requiring surgery that would keep him out of work for several months. The financial strain on the Rivera family was immediate and severe. Roberto's workers' compensation covered only a portion of his salary, and the medical bills began piling up quickly. Maria took on extra shifts at the restaurant where she worked as a server, but it wasn't enough to maintain their previous standard of living. The youth club fees, which had already been a stretch for the family budget, now seemed impossible to manage. Marcus overheard his parents discussing the situation late one night, their voices heavy with worry and difficult decisions. "We might have to pull him from the club," Maria said quietly. I know how much it means to him, but we can't afford the registration fees and equipment costs right now. There has to be another way, Roberto replied, frustration evident in his voice. He's finally found his path. We can't take that away from him now. Marcus lay in bed, staring at the ceiling and feeling the weight of his family's financial burden. The next morning, he approached Coach Martinez before practice. Coach, I need to talk to you about something, Marcus said, his usual smile replaced by a serious expression that seemed too mature for his 13-year-old face. What's on your mind, Rivera? My family is going through some financial difficulties right now, and I don't think we can afford the club fees anymore. I wanted to thank you for everything you've taught me and to let you know that I'll keep practicing on my own. Coach Martinez studied Marcus for a long moment. He had coached youth soccer for 15 years and had seen many talented players lost to circumstances beyond their control. But there was something special about this boy, something that went beyond his soccer ability. Let me make some phone calls, Coach Martinez said. Don't make any decisions yet. That afternoon, Coach Martinez met with the club's board of directors, several local business owners who supported youth soccer in the community. He made an impassioned case for Marcus, describing not just his potential as a player but his character and work ethic. This is the kind of kid we created this club to help, Coach Martinez argued. He represents everything we say we value: dedication, perseverance, and love for the game. If we can't find a way to keep players like Marcus, then what are we really doing here? The board agreed to provide Marcus with a full scholarship, covering not just his registration fees but also equipment and travel expenses for away matches. When Coach Martinez delivered the news, Marcus was so overwhelmed he could barely speak. Why would you do this for me? He finally managed to ask. Because, Coach Martinez replied, sometimes the game gives back to those who give everything to it. That evening, Marcus shared the news with his family over dinner. Roberto, still recovering from his surgery and frustrated by his inability to provide for his family as he always had, felt tears welling up in his eyes. You see, Mijo, he said, his voice thick with emotion. This is what happens when you conduct yourself with honor and work hard for what you believe in. People notice. People want to help. The scholarship did more than just allow Marcus to continue playing, it motivated him to work even harder. He felt a responsibility not just to his family but to Coach Martinez and the board members who had invested in his future. Every practice became an opportunity to prove their faith in him was well placed. Chapter 9: Rising through the ranks. With the financial pressure removed, Marcus was able to focus entirely on his development as a player. His improvement over the next year was remarkable, even by the standards he had set for himself. Combination of natural talent, relentless work ethic, and high-level coaching was producing a player who stood out even among the region's best youth prospects. 14. Marcus had finally begun to grow, though he remained smaller than most of his peers. More importantly, his understanding of the game had reached a level that impressed even experienced coaches and scouts. He saw patterns and possibilities that others missed, and his technical skills had become so refined that he rarely made mistakes in possession. Coach Martinez began entering the team in more prestigious tournaments, partly to challenge his players and partly to give Marcus exposure to higher levels of competition. In one such tournament against teams from across the state, Marcus's performance caught the attention of several college scouts and even a representative from a professional club's youth academy. "The kid in the number 10 jersey," one scout said to his colleague during halftime of Marcus's team's semifinal match. "He's different. He plays like he's been doing this for 20 years. Marcus had indeed been orchestrating his team's attack with the composure of a veteran. His passing was crisp and purposeful, his movement intelligent and economical, and his decision-making nearly flawless. When his team needed a goal in the final minutes, it was Marcus who created the opportunity, threading a perfect through ball that led to the winning score. After the match, the professional scout approached Coach Martinez. "I represent the Youth Academy for FC Los Angeles," he said, handing over a business card. "We'd like to invite Marcus to attend a trial with our U16 team. If he impresses, we'd offer him a place in our residential academy program." Coach Martinez felt a mixture of pride and sadness. He had always known this day would come. Marcus was too talented to remain at the youth club level indefinitely, but it was still difficult to contemplate losing his most promising player. That evening, the Rivera family gathered around their kitchen table to discuss this unexpected opportunity. The academy program would provide world-class coaching, top-level competition, and a direct pathway to professional soccer. But it would also mean Marcus leaving home at 14 to live in the academy's residential facility. "It's your decision, Mijo," Roberto said, though the difficulty of potentially letting his youngest son go was evident in his voice. "We'll support whatever you choose." Marcus looked around the table at the faces of the people who had sacrificed so much for his dreams. His father, still walking with a slight limp from his injury but back at work and as supportive as ever. His mother, who had worked extra shifts and worried constantly but never complained. His brother Luis, who had spent countless hours sharing his knowledge and passion for the game. "I want to try," Marcus said quietly. "But I want you all to know that none of this would be possible without everything you've done for me. If I make it, it's because of all of us, not just me." The trial was scheduled for the following month, giving Marcus time to prepare both physically and mentally for what would be the biggest test of his soccer career to date. Chapter 10: The Academy Trial. The FC Los Angeles Youth Academy facility was unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. Pristine grass fields stretched in every direction, a state-of-the-art training center housed weight rooms and recovery facilities, and dormitories provided housing for the most promising young players from across the region. Marcus arrived for his week-long trial with a small duffel bag and a stomach full of butterflies. The other trialists were impressive, tall, athletic teenagers who moved with the confidence of players who had been in elite programs for years. Once again, Marcus found himself as the smallest player in the group, but this time the stakes were higher than they had ever been. The academy coaches put the trialists through a series of tests designed to evaluate not just their current ability but their potential for development. Technical skills, tactical understanding, physical attributes, and mental toughness were all assessed through drills, small-sided games, and full matches. On the first day, Marcus struggled with the pace and intensity of the training. These players were faster and stronger than anyone he had faced, and the coaching was more demanding than anything he had experienced. Several times he found himself wondering if he belonged at this level. But as the week progressed, Marcus began to find his rhythm. His technical skills, honed through years of dedicated practice, proved to be among the best in the group. His tactical intelligence, developed through countless hours of video study with Luis, allowed him to adapt quickly to the academy's sophisticated playing style. Most importantly, his attitude and work ethic impressed the coaching staff. "The small kid has something special," observed the academy director during a staff meeting midway through the trial. "He's not the most physically gifted player we've seen, but he has an understanding of the game that you can't teach. And his mentality is exceptional." The final test was a match against the Academy's current U16 team players who had been in the program for months or years and knew the system inside and out. Marcus was selected to start in his preferred attacking midfielder role, a sign that the coaches wanted to see how he would perform under maximum pressure. The match was intense from the first whistle. The academy players were determined to show that their spots were secure, while the trialists were fighting for their soccer futures. Marcus found himself closely marked by two defenders who had clearly been instructed to limit his influence on the game. For the first 30 minutes, Marcus was largely contained. Every time he received the ball, he was immediately pressured, and his usual passing lanes were blocked. But rather than becoming frustrated, Marcus began to adapt his game, using his movement to create space for teammates and making quick, simple passes that kept the team's attack flowing. In the second half, his patience was rewarded. With the trialists trailing 1-0, Marcus received the ball in a crowded midfield area. Instead of trying to force a pass or take on multiple defenders, he played a simple ball wide to the right winger, then immediately began a run toward the penalty area. The ball was worked quickly around the field, right wing to right back to left wing, while Marcus continued his run, timing it perfectly to arrive in the penalty area just as the left winger delivered a cross. Marcus met the ball with a perfectly placed header, sending it into the bottom corner of the goal. The goal was a thing of beauty, not because of individual brilliance, but because it demonstrated everything the academy valued: patience, tactical discipline, teamwork, and clinica. Finishing when the opportunity arose. After the match, which ended in a 2-2 draw, the academy director pulled Marcus aside. "We'd like to offer you a place in our program," he said simply. "You have the potential to develop into something very special, but it will require total commitment. Are you ready for that?" Marcus thought of his family, of all the sacrifices they had made to get him to this point, of all the dreams that had brought him here. "Yes, sir," he replied, that familiar smile spreading across his face. "I'm ready." Chapter 11: Academy Life. The transition to academy life was both exhilarating and challenging for Marcus. Living away from home for the first time at 14 was difficult, despite the support systems the academy had in place. He missed his family's daily encouragement, his father's morning training sessions, and his brother's evening video analysis sessions. But the level of coaching and competition at the academy was extraordinary. Marcus trained with some of the best young players in the country, under the guidance of coaches who had played professionally and understood the game at its highest levels. Every day brought new challenges and new opportunities for growth. The Academy's philosophy emphasized technical excellence, tactical intelligence, and mental toughness qualities that aligned perfectly with Marcus's natural strengths and the foundation his family had helped him build. Coaching staff quickly recognized his potential and began working with him on the specific skills needed to excel at the professional level. "Marcus has an old soul," observed Coach Williams, the Academy's technical director. "He plays like he's been studying the game his whole life, which in many ways he has. Our job is to refine his natural gifts and prepare him for the next level." The physical demands of academy training were intense. Multiple sessions per day, strength and conditioning work, recovery protocols, and competitive matches against other top academies filled Marcus's schedule from morning until evening. But he thrived in this environment, his body finally beginning to catch up with his technical and tactical development. By his second year at the academy, Marcus had grown several inches and added significant muscle mass while maintaining his quickness and agility. More importantly, his leadership qualities were beginning to emerge. Despite being one of the younger players in his age group, his teammates looked to him for guidance during matches, recognizing his superior understanding of the game. The Academy's matches were scouted regularly by college coaches and professional clubs, and Marcus's performances were generating significant interest. His ability to control the tempo of matches, create scoring opportunities for teammates, and score crucial goals himself made him one of the most sought-after prospects in his age group. But Marcus never lost sight of where he came from or who had helped him reach this level. He called his family every evening, sharing the details of his training and matches, seeking advice from his father and brother, and drawing strength from their unwavering support. "Remember me, Joe," Roberto would tell him during these calls. "No matter how high you climb, never forget the people who helped you get there. And never stop working like you're still the smallest player on the field." During school breaks, Marcus would return home and immediately seek out Coach Martinez and his former youth club teammates. He would share what he had learned at the academy, help younger players with their development, and always make time for pickup games on the same neighborhood field where his journey had begun. "You haven't changed," Coach Martinez observed during one of these visits. "Success hasn't gone to your head. That's the mark of someone who will go far in this game." Chapter 12: The Professional Dream. As Marcus entered his final year at the academy, the question was no longer whether he would play professional soccer, but where and when. Multiple Major League Soccer clubs had expressed interest in signing him to their youth contracts, and several European clubs had sent scouts to evaluate his potential. The academy director called Marcus into his office one afternoon with news that would change everything. "Real Betis, a club in Spain's La Liga, has offered you a trial with their reserve team," he announced. "If you impress, they're prepared to offer you a professional contract." "This is an incredible opportunity, Marcus. Very few American players get chances like this at your age." Marcus felt his heart racing. La Liga was one of the world's top professional leagues, home to clubs like Real Madrid and Barcelona. The opportunity to train and potentially play at that level was beyond anything he had ever imagined. But the decision wasn't simple. Accepting the trial would mean leaving the United States, moving to a country where he didn't speak the language fluently, and competing against players who had been in professional systems since childhood. The risk of failure was significant, but so was the potential reward. That evening, Marcus called his family to discuss this life-changing opportunity. Conversation lasted for hours, with each family member offering their perspective and support. "This is what we've all been working toward," Luis said. "You've earned this chance through years of dedication and sacrifice. You have to take it." "But are you ready for this level of challenge?" Maria asked, her maternal concern evident even over the phone. "It's a big world out there and you're still so young." Roberto, as always, provided the wisdom that helped Marcus see the situation clearly. "Mijo, fear is natural when facing the unknown. But regret is worse than fear. If you don't try, you'll always wonder what might have been. And we've raised you to be strong enough to handle whatever comes." 2 weeks later, Marcus boarded a plane to Seville, Spain, carrying the dreams and hopes of his entire family. The trial would last 1 month, during which he would train with Real Betis reserve team and potentially appear in matches against other professional clubs' reserve sides. The level of play was immediately apparent. These weren't talented teenagers anymore, they were professional athletes who had dedicated their lives to soccer. Pace was faster, the physicality more intense, and the tactical sophistication more complex than anything Marcus had experienced. But once again, his technical skills, tactical intelligence, and mental toughness served him well. Within a week, he was training with the first team on occasion, impressing the coaching staff with his maturity and professionalism. The breakthrough moment came during a reserve team match against Sevilla's reserves. With his team trailing 1-0 in the second half, Marcus received the ball in his preferred position just outside the penalty area. 3 defenders closed in on him, but instead of panicking, he remained calm, using a quick feint to create space before delivering a perfectly weighted pass to a teammate who scored the equalizing goal. 10 minutes later, Marcus scored the winning goal himself, collecting a loose ball in midfield, driving forward with pace and purpose, and finishing clinically past the goalkeeper. It was a goal that showcased everything he had learned throughout his journey: technical skill, tactical awareness, physical courage, and mental composure under pressure. After the match, Real Betis sporting director approached Marcus with a contract offer. 17 years old, Marcus Rivera would become a professional soccer player with one of Spain's most respected clubs. Epilogue: the beautiful game continues 5 years later. Marcus Rivera stood in the tunnel at the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium, preparing to make his debut for the Spanish national team against Brazil in an international friendly. The journey from that dusty neighborhood field in East Los Angeles to representing Spain at the highest level of international soccer seemed almost impossible to believe. His professional career had exceeded even his most optimistic dreams. Through 2 successful seasons with Real Betis' first team, he had earned a transfer to Atletico Madrid, one of Spain's biggest clubs. His performances there had caught the attention of the national team selectors, and his recent acquisition of Spanish citizenship had made him eligible to represent his adopted country. But as he stood in that tunnel, Marcus's thoughts weren't on the 80,000 fans waiting in the stadium or the millions watching on television around the world. Instead, he thought about his father, Roberto, who would be watching from their home in Los Angeles, probably wearing the Spanish national team jersey that Marcus had sent him. He thought about his mother, Maria, who still worried about him constantly but beamed with pride whenever she saw his name in the sports pages. He thought about his brother Luis, who had become a successful youth coach himself, using many of the analytical techniques they had developed together during those evening video sessions. Most of all, he thought about that 12-year-old boy who had refused to give up despite being the smallest player on every field, who had smiled through every setback and worked harder after every disappointment. That boy's dreams had seemed impossible at the time, but they had been built on a foundation of family support, relentless work ethic, and an unshakable belief that dedication could overcome any obstacle. As Marcus ran onto the field to represent his country, he carried with him not just his own dreams but the dreams of everyone who had believed in him along the way. The beautiful game had given him everything, but more importantly, it had taught him that with persistence, determination, and the support of those who love you, any dream is possible. The boy who had once chased shadows on a neighborhood field was now creating magic on the world's biggest stage, proving that in soccer as in life, it's not about how you start, it's about how far you're willing to go to reach your destination. And Marcus Rivera's journey was just beginning. The end word count approximately 18,500 words. This story captures the essence of a young athlete's journey from humble beginnings to professional success, emphasizing the crucial roles of family support, personal determination, and the willingness to learn and grow through every challenge. Marcus's story demonstrates that physical limitations can be overcome through intelligence, hard work, and an unwavering commitment to improvement, while never losing sight of the joy and passion that make the beautiful game truly beautiful.